Welcome to Extreme Flat Track Live. I am Jason Baffrey. Glad to have you with us. And yesterday I played that video and it did about the same thing. And then I went back and watched it and it looked okay. So hopefully it just looked really bad from my end and it looks really good on your end. That's all I can hope for at this point. So we are getting ready for Sturgis. We are about a week away. It is unbelievable to think that, but we are ready to be in Sturgis August 7th through the 15th for the Ronnie Stratton Memorial Sturgis Rally Championship. Of course, we'll be at the Jack Pine Gypsies Motorcycle Club on August 7th, 8th, and 10th. We'll be at the Buffalo Chip for the Super TT on August 11th and the 13th. And then we'll wrap it up at the Rapid City Half Mile at Black Hills Speedway. And that'll be on Friday, August 14th and Saturday, August the 15th. And we couldn't be more excited. And of course, if you joined us yesterday, you found out that we are going to have Throttle Therapy with Bugs Pearson, the racing school that Bugs is putting on. That's going to take place on the morning of Wednesday, August the 12th. For those of you that I confused on our previous show and I said August 10th all day long, it's actually Wednesday, August the 12th, but hopefully you could read between the lines and figure out what I meant there. But it's going to be awesome, and it was great to have Bugs on and be able to talk about the racing and his involvement in the building of the Buffalo Chip Super TT, as well as this school that he's going to do. So if you want to register for that school, all you have to do is go to extremeflattrack.com/bugs, and you can register for Throttle Therapy with Bugs Pearson. It'll include some classroom session and then plenty of on-track time, and he wants to make sure that he gets one-on-one time with everybody, so we're limiting the class to about 10 riders. If we just get overloaded with registrations, we'll look at the possibility of maybe doing another school on that same day. But right now, we're looking for 10 riders and $200, 4 hours. You get track time and time with Bugs Pearson. You couldn't ask for much more. It's going to be awesome. So go to extremeflattrack.com/bugs to check it out. All right. Well, I want to get right to it because I have a guest today, and I'm very excited about this. You know her as a power sports announcer, a personality, a video host. Yes, indeed. It is Jacqui Van Ham. She has repped the biggest brands in motorcycling and announced for some of the most exciting racing in the United States, including American Flat Track, the Super Hooligans, Flat Out Friday, Sons of Speed, and Fight TV. And now I am excited to announce that she is going to be joining me in Sturgis at the Rapid City Half Mile. And Jacqui Van Ham, welcome to Extreme Flat Track.
Woohoo! How are you?
I'm great. It's great to have you on.
It's great to be here. Thank you so much. And I'm so excited to be a part of today's show. Of course, you know, I live for talking into microphones and cameras out here on the internet, but I'm super excited to be a part of your race series out at Sturgis. Sturgis is one of my, I've really grown to fall in love with it. I'm not going to lie. The first couple years, you know, it is a lot of V-twin. I love V-twin. I work in V-twin, but I ride dirt bikes. I ride vintage bikes. I ride all sorts of nerdy stuff, hence my two-stroke t-shirt on today. So at first, I kind of got to admit, I didn't really love Sturgis. But that was because I didn't understand Sturgis, because Sturgis has so much going on. It is so over the top and so crazy, and it's so hard to figure everything out. And then the other thing that I didn't realize, I mean, I knew about it historically, but I didn't quite connect the dots of how much racing happens at Sturgis. And so this is why I'm so pumped to be a part of your program this year and be on this show, because I think people kind of, you know, for the first couple of years, and I still do get this. When I tell people I'm going to Sturgis for work, it's a lot of like, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Right.
Like you're going out there to get trashed and fall in the dirt and, you know, dirty biker stuff. And I'm like, no. I mean, yes, all of that stuff happens out of Sturgis. But more importantly, in my mind, is that the foundations of Sturgis, as well as really the foundations of American motorcycling, is found in dirt track and flat track racing. So to me, this is what I get really excited about at Sturgis. In the past several years, particularly with organizations like yourself, I've been following you guys for years now. I love what you do down south, the VDDRA or V for Vintage Dirt Track. I did that backwards. But anyway,
no, you're right.
I've been following the Fandango, and I've been following some of the stuff you do down south. So I'm a big fan of yours anyway. But up at Sturgis, there has been a really awesome uptick, particularly in hooligan racing.
Yeah.
Several of the dirt track racing, like Jack Pine Gypsies and hill climbs, has been going on for years, and that's much more dirt bike, 100cc, 250cc class oriented. Super bitchin'. I love to watch it. I'm a huge fan of that. But the merging of V twin and hooligan racing together has really upped the ante out at Sturgis, and it's super exciting. So I'm clearly a huge fan. I I love going, I love watching and spectating it, and more importantly, I love announcing it, and I love being part of the action. So I'm really, really pleased to be seeing you guys next week and spectating the first couple of dates, hopefully, and
Yeah.
then I will definitely see you on the second weekend.
Well, and that's one of the reasons that we wanted to have you involved, and I reached out to you because your passion for the sport and for motorcycles comes through every time I see you. And you're just it's really engaging, and it's really uh I just think there's a word I was looking for, but I can't find it. But nevertheless,
Is it nerdy?
no, nerdy is not it at all. It's magnetizing. You just really, it shows how much you know and how much you appreciate what you're involved with, and that's not always the case. And I just thought, I find that that's really important, especially in somebody who's doing broadcasting, whether it's, being in the announcing booth, doing a live event, or being on TV representing the event. Uh, if you're passionate and you know what you're talking about, that comes through. And I think people engage with that a lot more.
Yeah, I thank you so much. I super appreciate that compliment because I know you crush it out here as well. I know you host programs on here. You've got a brilliant, really nice speaking voice, and you deliver really well. So, from a fellow pro talker out here, I appreciate your positive feedback and positive vibes. So, thank you for that. But yeah, I mean, it's genuine and it's easy because I genuinely love it. I'm genuinely a huge fan. I'm a huge nerd. It gets me into trouble sometimes because I am, very energetic.
Yeah,
but I mean, it is just who I am. It's like not everybody can be Dave Despain, but I promise
right.
you, Dave Despain can't turn it up like I do. So that's just we're just two different people. So it just
Sure.
is what it is. But there's room for both of us out here, and I'm really proud to also represent. There's not a lot of women represented
Right.
in all of motorcycling, really, but particularly in particular segments, and particularly with racing, there's not a lot of women out here. So I love that I can be a woman out here, but also represent racing and talk racing and get into it and talk nuts and bolts. And I get my hands dirty, and I really ride, and I've had a really awesome career out here because of that. And I love that it's just the fact that the fact that this is a job, and the fact that this is my job is absolutely blows me away every single time I get on a plane or a bike and I go to one of my jobs. So I'm the luckiest girl in America.
Yeah, I understand that completely. So, for those that may not, I mean, we've seen you announce different events and everything, but many people may not have had a chance to get to know you like this. Let's talk a little bit about your background. What actually got you into motorcycles and motorcycling? How did you find yourself as a woman kind of on this path into where you are now?
So I grew up in Northern Illinois. I'm one of the unofficial fast boys of Illinois. I've decided that for myself.
I will
I'm
talk
totally
to you
joking.
about that.
I'm
Maybe
not a fast boy from Illinois, but I do love those guys. Anywho, I grew up in Northern Illinois. I grew up surrounded by boys, by men. I have only brothers, stepbrothers, and brothers through marriage, and blah blah blah. But there's no other girls, so I was raised like one of the guys. So
yeah,
I grew up on four wheelers and six wheelers and fighting and wrestling around in the dirt. I mean, I just was a super duper tomboy growing up, which of course led right into dirt bikes and motorcycles. So I had my first dirt bike at about 11 years old. It lasted for all of about 27 minutes because the deal is that my older stepbrothers were supposed to teach me to ride. Needless to say, that didn't really go over so well. That didn't really happen. They definitely taught me to go faster, and they taught me what the right hand side was all about, what the right grip was, but they didn't really teach me how to stop or
right,
really
right.
turn efficiently. So that lasted for about 27 minutes before I crashed it. The bike went away. No more motorcycles for me. But that's all it took for me to have the bug. And fast forward to maybe 8 years later or so, I was living in Southern California, which is the home here in the United States of motorcycling because the weather is spectacular. You can ride all year round. All the magazines are there. Bikes are everywhere. You can lane split. Just an awesome culture. And I just fell in love with it again. It kind of re-scratched that itch, as it were. And I started reading a magazine in the Wayback Machine called the Walneck Cycle Trader. I don't know if you remember or are familiar with that. That might have been a nerdy Midwest thing. Anyway, it literally was a cycle trader, like before Google and before Craigslist.
Right.
I know, woo, way back in the Wayback Machine. And I was able to, they repopped articles of the magazine, of the motorcycles from their era. So they had all the deets, all the stats, the weight, dry weight, top power, top speed, CCs, blah, blah, like all the nerdy stuff. And I just devoured it and started memorizing it. And then that led to me getting my very first bike. And it was a 1964 Honda Dream 305.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So that was my first bike. And I had that for a while. I was by this point, I'd bounced around America and was in Chicago with that bike. And I knew I needed something bigger to travel and go see stuff, because I also fell in love with this time with vintage motorcycle racing. I got bit by the bug by going to Mid-Ohio Vintage Days of ARMA, American Historical Racing Motorcycle Association. So I fell in love with vintage racing as well. And I knew I wanted to go and follow it and go check out all this awesome racing. And so I knew I needed a bigger bike. And so that's when I bought my 1972 BMW R75/5. I bought it totally sight unseen. I'd never ridden a BMW. I had barely seen a BMW. All I knew is that from going to Mid-Ohio year after year after year, I would see these vintage BMWs with mileage badges on them. BMW still does, but in the Wayback Machine, they did a lot more. They did mileage awards, where if you certified that you had 250,000, 500,000, 750,000 miles on your machine and it was logged and accounted for, they would send you this beautiful badge from BMW celebrating this mileage on this machine. So I'd seen them at Mid-Ohio and I was like, you can ride a vintage motorcycle 1,000,000 miles? That's the bike for me. And I found a bike on eBay and bought it and had it sent here. My dad really nicely went out to Illinois. By that point now, I'm living here in Kentucky, which is where I've been for a long time. He went and picked it up and brought it to me. And halfway home, he even called and he was like, this bike is too nice for you. You can't have this bike. Like I'm gonna keep this bike. And so anyway, he unloaded it and I've ridden it ever since. I've ridden that bike on a lap across America, which is the first time I went to Sturgis back in 2010. And then I've shipped it to Europe twice now and toured Europe solo on it. The first time was for about 3 months. The second time was 2 years ago to celebrate that 10-year anniversary, and that was for 5 weeks on this vintage old BMW. So I'm real committed to motorcycles.
Yeah.
I'm clearly really, really into it. So the vintage motorcycle racing led really naturally to flat track racing, because there is a lot of vintage flat track racing.
Right.
Particularly from Mid-Ohio, they would run Ashland every year that same weekend, which is a brilliant, brilliant track. And just with it's just that historical style of flat track racetrack where it's got the wooden bleachers and it's kind of creaky and it's just got a great vibe to it. Anyway, so I just really started also having an interest about 5 years ago in flat track racing. And I started following it. I started going to it more and started going to more pro level races as well when I could. And I love that it was a really similar vibe to vintage racing. Like it's like family, if someone's bike breaks down, your competitor, generally speaking, if he's got the part you need, will bring it over to you and give it to you to help you fix your bike and get you back on the track, because it's more important that everybody races versus like the cutthroat world of modern superbike racing, where if your bike breaks down in modern superbike, like, yeah, you're stoked, one less guy on the grid.
Right.
But vintage racing, it's totally not that way. Everybody barbecues at night, drinks beers, tears down their bikes, puts them back together, and flat track is the exact same way. And I just fell in love with it, hook, line, and sinker. And started deciding that I wanted to learn flat track racing. And so I worked real hard and set aside some little pennies and made some time. And I attended Johnny Lewis 10 training, which was an introductory dirt and introductory flat track class down in Florida. I did his school. I did American Super Camp with Danny Walker. I did Texas Tornado with Colin Edwards. I went to the Di Traverso school over in Italy and did that flat track program as well. And then came back and was just doing my regular announcing work that I do. I've announced since 2000 and when did I really start hitting it? I think 2012, maybe 2013, for larger motorcycle corporations.
Yeah.
And I had been through several manufacturers, but I ended up in like 2015, 2016 with Indian Motorcycle. And that was the year that they launched their flat track program. That's the year they launched Super Hooligan Race Series with Roland Sands. Like, it just all came to a head. And I already loved it. I already was passionate about it. I already hopefully could talk somewhat intelligently about it. And they needed somebody to announce one of their first races for Super Hooligan Race Series. And they were like, "You're here. You know, do you want to do it?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah." And so I got on and announced the first Super Hooligan race in Austin, Texas, as part of the Hand-Built Show weekend. And I just had a ball because I knew all those dudes. Like, they were all my buddies. So literally I did what you and I would call color. I did color, and they had the straight guy who was up in like a cherry picker so he could see the whole track.
Yeah.
He was doing the play-by-play and I was doing color. So literally all I was doing was talking smack about my buddies that were racing. But had a great time, and people laughed and thought I was funny, and the bosses thought it was kind of amusing, and not more importantly, but just as importantly, the lead team, the CEO, chief of marketing, chief of events for American Flat Track Racing was there, and they heard me. And I ended up at dinner with them the following night, totally by accident. I mean, kind of. I knew who they were, but they didn't know who I was.
Yeah.
We ended up going to dinner, and one of the guys said to one of my buddies, because they were at the other end of the table, "You know, we had such a great time yesterday. Like, what a cool event," because it's super just rock and roll and punk rock, like hooligan racing. You know, it's like anything goes. It's not like pro racing. It's kind of anything goes. It can be a little bit of a mess, but it's always fun. It's always a good time. Anyway, so he just was like, "That was rad," and he's like, "And I don't know who that woman was on the microphone, but you know, she was a riot. Like, who was this woman?" And my buddy Mike was like, "She's sitting right down there at the end of the table. Like, you go talk to her." And after a year and a half of conversations, I got invited to the big dance, and I ended up doing some announcing for a handful of races for the 2018 race season for American Flat Track Racing. I did pit reporter and podium interview for them.
Yeah. I think that's the first time I ran across you is watching those events. So, well, that's great. That's an incredible story, and I love hearing stories like that of how people made their way into the business, not only of racing, but also, you know, what we do. And it's always cool. And it usually involves something like that, being at the right place at the right time and knowing the right people and, you know, having a passion for it. So that's very cool. You talked a lot about hooligan racing, and of course, hooligan racing is going to be a part of our shows for the Xtreem Flat Track Ronnie Stratton Memorial Sturgis Rally Championship. So hooligan riders, if you're out there and you're Jacqui Van Ham fans, bring the bikes, come out and race. Especially we'll be at the short track, and we're running hooligans at the Super TT, and that should be exciting for everybody and fun to watch. And of course, at the Rapid City Half Mile at Black Hills Speedway is going to be a big time as well. And that's where you're going to be at least kind of working with me, or you're going to be working.
And I love that. And I love that track. So that worked out perfect. I super appreciate you asking me to be a part of that. I mean, I love your whole program the whole week. All three areas that you're hitting are just spectacular, rowdy, fun tracks. Especially, I was watching the footage from the Super Hooligan TT next door to the Buffalo Chip, and that crazy blind hill with a quick left.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's gonna get spicy at that racetrack. But I do love the half mile at the Black Hills Speedway. It's one of my most favorite tracks. I go every year that I've been out there for Sturgis. It's just very, very fast. I've seen some absolutely spectacular racing at that track. It's just one of my most favorites. So I love when you reached back out and said, "Hey, do you want to pick up these 2 dates at the half mile?" And I immediately was like, "Yeah, absolutely. Whatever you need, I'm there. I love that track anyway. I absolutely."
It's going to be fun. And we have a special announcement to make, and I'm just going to throw that in here right now, and didn't prepare you for this, but just ride along with me, if you will, Jacqui, because I would like to let everybody know that we are proud to welcome Shinko Tires on board with us for the Xtreem Flat Track events at the Sturgis Rally Championship, and we are going to have 50 sets of tires that we're going to be giving away during the events to, we're going to determine how we're going to give those all away, but we have, I think 20 sets or 25 sets of the 19-inch tire set, and then 5 or 10 sets of 17-inch to go on the 17-inch wheels. And this is the big part. I'm extremely excited. You follow Supercross, don't you, Jacqui?
Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah.
Okay. So the brand ambassador for Shinko Tires and Fly Racing, WPS Sports, Weston Pike, former Supercross rider, is going to be in Sturgis, and we're working on the exact details, but he will be coming to some of the Xtreem Flat Track events, and also I'm hopefully going to be able to do one of these shows with him in the next few days as well, to talk to Weston Pike, former JGR, Joe Gibbs Racing Suzuki rider, and just one of the real great racers that has run Supercross and done really well out there, and always fun to watch ride, and just a really cool guy, and I can't wait to talk to him.
That is excellent. Congratulations. Huge thanks to Shinko Tires for stepping up, supporting some awesome racing going on this week at America's most iconic motorcycle event, which is, of course, the 80th Sturgis Rally. So that's awesome. Huge thanks to Shinko Tires.
Yeah, absolutely. We're very excited about that, and hopefully we'll have more to come from them, and maybe some other surprises that come along with their involvement as well before next week rolls around. So, Jacqui, I've actually never been to Sturgis before, and this will be my first time. I know it's crazy. I've been wanting to go for a long time and just haven't ever been able to make it work out, and so tell me about it. What am I in for?
Are we going to take your cherry?
Well, yes, in certain ways. Yeah. So I think it's going to be.
That was some off-color humor for any of your younger viewers. Don't you don't got to worry about what that was. Anyway, so Sturgis, like I said, Sturgis is a total handful. It's a little bit of everything. It is anything goes. It is for reals, the wild, wild west out there. But you're in such a good spot because you're already running what is some of my favorite things going on out at Sturgis anyway. I mean, the bands are amazing. The Buffalo Chip is one of my most favorite places in America, honestly. It's just such a good time, and there's bands and food and bikes and bike shows and people, and it's just jam-packed full of awesome stuff. That being said, it's also, there's plenty of room at Sturgis. I mean, it's in the middle of nowhere. I don't want to offend any South Dakota people, but I mean, there's a lot of room.
Right.
So if you're feeling, if you have some feelings about being too close or too much close contact right now, I totally get it. But here's the rad thing, and why racing is so special is because the grandstands are huge. The Jack Pine Gypsies is huge. You can go, you can stay away from people, you can support and enjoy the racing. You don't have to be in this crush of people if you don't want to. So I think that's just kind of important to point out. That being said, though, the concerts things, the Buffalo Chip, you're going to be jammed up against people. It's a very crowded location, but there's all sorts of balconies and places where you can kind of get away and have a little bit of distance if that's your thing too. So I do genuinely love Sturgis. I love the racing. I love the music. I love the vibe of it. The monuments are gorgeous. I don't know how on earth you're going to have time out there, but I hope you do, or I hope you've already gone and seen, Rushmore and some of the monuments, because that is a beautiful part of America over left of Sturgis. Not right, because it's flat for 8 hours, but left of Sturgis is very, very pretty, very, very cool. And I just love it. It is just a really special, neat thing. I know that I think I take it for granted a little time how special it is until I get there. And then also when I get there and I do some of my filming and open up my cameras and do my live streams, because people from all over the world tune in, because this is just such an iconic, important, huge piece of Americana. And I think I kind of forget like how massive and how important it is until you get there. So there's just no other place like it. There's no other vibe like it. I dig it. And again, and I can't stress it enough, you know, the foundations of Sturgis is in racing, you know, starting in 1938. That was the first race out there. It was all Indians, by the way, which is ironic because now, you know, Sturgis is like a Harley Davidson thing. Anyway, the first race was 9 Indian motorcycles, the very first dirt race out there, hosted by Patty Hull. So its roots are in dirt racing. So I think it is super important for anybody watching your show to come on out and support some of these incredible events that you're going to be putting on all week long.
Well, that's great. And I'm really looking forward to being there, being a part of the 80th anniversary of it. I just think it's going to be incredible. And like you said, certainly at the Buffalo Chip and for our event, the Super TT, I mean, we're in the on the Power Sports Complex, which is across the street from the concert venue where they've had racing previously. And there is plenty of space over there to be wide open. And one of the cool things that we're doing at the Super TT is, you know, bring your lawn chairs, bring your blankets. You'll be able to sit up on the hill and watch. I mean, you'll basically be able to see the entire track. We're looking at right at a half mile in the total length of the Super TT course. But that uphill that you saw the video of is just going to be really badass, because they're going to be Dawson Schieffer came out when he rode it. I mean, he was 60, 70 miles an hour up the hill, and he had the biggest grin on his face when he took his helmet off. He's like, that's going to be awesome to see.
Yeah,
multiple.
I bet it looked super, super rowdy. So I can't wait to see it. I'm really, really pumped, and it's just a neat, cool, exciting thing, and I'm really looking forward to it. So it's all good stuff. Bring your sunscreen. If you've never been to Sturgis during Sturgis Rally Week, pack everything you own, because it literally is 95 degrees, down to 40 degrees, down to hail, down to sun. I mean, I literally, like, when I pack for it, it looks like I'm moving across country, because it's just everything I own comes with me, because it's just so crazy. So that's my pro tip. My pro tip for you. And bring rain gear. I hate to say it, and I don't want to jinx anything, but it blows through really fast. That's the cool thing about it, is it's very dramatic, but the weather goes through really, really quick. So but you'll get soaked. So make sure you bring your galoshes.
Good to know. Okay, so you're going to be out there most of the week with BMW. Let's let people know kind of what you're doing there and where you're going to be the rest of the week.
Yeah, so as opposed to the past, I guess maybe 7 years that I've been out there, usually I'm doing a bit of a announcing, pro talking. I call it booth barker. I'm usually like a booth barker or display barker, and I just kind of make a lot of noise and get people excited to come over to the display and check out the bikes for whichever company I'm representing. Because this year is so topsy-turvy, and there's a lot of concern about you know, shipping corporate people around. And anyway, because of all this jazz, a lot of that stuff got canceled. So I'm doing something a little bit different, where I'm going to be representing bikes and riding with BMW. We were doing a couple of different rides. We're going to all the greatest hits. We're doing the monuments, we're doing needles, we're doing all the rad rides that honestly I've never had the chance to go on because I'm always working. We're getting the chance to go ride and do all that stuff and go to Deadwood. And basically it's really just about giving the public an opportunity to see these bikes in action. So that's really what we're going to be doing out there, as opposed to having kind of like a static display. Maybe grabbing a little bit of social media, taking pictures, letting the public take pictures of the bikes. This is a bit of a mini itty bitty bike reveal kind of situation. So there's gonna be a lot of excitement. I can't give away too many details because I've got a little bit of an embargo, but it's gonna be really exciting. It is a bike that has been very, very, very highly anticipated. So I'm really pumped to be riding it. And I think I'm one of the first American women. I'm one of the first Americans, period, to ride this, but I'm also one of the first American women to ride it. So I'm kind of stoked about that. So we're going to have a great time showing off those bikes. They're an awesome company to work with. I went out there with them last year also. They're just really supportive of Sturgis, which some people might not connect BMW necessarily with Sturgis, but you'd be surprised about how many people come out there also love adventure riding, getting in the dirt. I mean, that's all the big GS bike. I mean, that's its whole claim to fame. So a lot of people are kind of crossover or BMW curious. So it's a really cool place to be with that bike and kind of blow people's minds and talk to them about a brand that maybe they're not as familiar with. And like I said, I've shipped my vintage BMW over to Europe a couple times and done a lap of Americana. So clearly I am a true BMW geek. So it's fun to go and be with them for the week. And then we wrap that up. And then literally that same morning that everybody flies out, I'm going to come into Rapid City and I'll be headed your way. I'll be headed to the Black Hills Speedway.
It's going to be awesome. I believe we're not racing on Sunday and Wednesday, so if you have an extra BMW sitting around, I have not been to Mount Rushmore, and I would like to take a ride. I'm just going to throw that out there. Okay.
You can sit behind me. I'll take you.
Well, I might be willing to do. I wouldn't do that with almost anybody, but I might do that with you. Well, Jacqui Van Ham, it's been great talking to you. I can't wait to meet you face to face and work with you once we get up there to Sturgis. It's going to be a good time. And thanks so much for taking the time to join me here and for being willing to be involved with Xtreem Flat Track.
Of course, the pleasure is entirely mine. I am a huge fan of what you guys do. I'm a huge fan of any race organization right now that is trying to get out there and still put on awesome race events for people to either spectate or participate in. I think it's really, really important for people to get outside and recreate and have a good time. And we can all still see each other, but in a hopefully safe and that type of environment. And this is the future, my friend. Like, this is what it's all about, because these rallies and things are going to kind of slow down a little bit. So racing, I think we're here to see a little bit of a surge, if I can say that, of interest.
If it's up to me, it will be.
Yeah, even Moto America right now they're doing the spectators again, or at least they were. But at the beginning of their race season, they were doing no spectators, just streaming, and they had their top viewed races they've ever broadcast were those races, because people are just clamoring for kick-ass competitive racing. Right. So I super appreciate being a part of it. I'm a huge fan, and I can't wait.
All right. Thank you very much, Jacqui. Tell everybody where they can find you.
So I am here on the Facebooks at Jacqui Van Ham, or my page, which is better because you can follow all my videos and things that I get up to, is at Jacqui Van Ham Official here on the Facebooks. I'm also at Jacqui Van Ham on the Instagrams. You can head on over there and go say hey to me over there as well.
All right. Thank you, Jacqui Van Ham. Don't run off. I'll talk to you after we close things out here. All right, everybody. That's been great. Don't forget. Make your plans now. You want to be there. You don't want to miss it. It is the Ronnie Stratton Memorial Sturgis Rally Championship in Sturgis, part of the 80th Sturgis Motorcycle Rally. It's going to be amazing. Of course, we'll be at the Jack Pine Gypsies for the short track on August 7th, 8th, and 10th. And then we will be at the Buffalo Chip for the Super TT on August 11th and 13th. And then we move to close everything out on Friday and Saturday, August 14th and 15th at the Rapid City Half Mile. And Jacqui will be with me there, and hopefully we'll have Weston Pike there as well. We're going to try to get all that worked out, and I'll be letting everybody know in the next couple of days, and hopefully have him here on a show to talk to him as well. Once again, a big thanks to Shinko Tires for their involvement with Xtreem Flat Track. Also want to thank our other great sponsors, Moto Gear and Light Shoe, as well as LS2 helmets. Of course, those three sponsors are putting together the prize pack for our open amateur high point champion for the week, and they're going to get some great gear from those companies. It's going to be awesome. If you'd like to hear more, I actually was honored. I'm going to do a little shameless self-promotion here, but I was on the Scotty Dubler Off the Groove podcast, did the interview yesterday. They were going to try to drop that show today, so if you listen to that podcast or listen to podcasts at all, go to all of your favorite podcast outlets and look for Off the Groove for my interview with Scotty Dubler. I think it was a lot of fun. It was really excited to connect with him. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. We are out of here. Have a great day and a great weekend, and we'll see you in Sturgis.